Welcome everyone to the Community IT Innovators Voices series. My name is Carolyn Woodard, and today I am interviewing Johanny Torrico. So Johanny, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you, Carolyn, for inviting me. My name is Johanny Torrico, and you did a great job pronouncing my last name. And I'm the Chief Operating Officer at Community IT.
What are your responsibilities? What is your job title?
Well, my job title is Chief Operating Officer, and what I do is basically oversee the service and technical operations for all the teams at Community IT. And you need to be a little bit more specific. That means, I focus on business processes, either creating business processes where it's needed for service delivery optimization, or revamping existing processes. And this can be around service delivery, and a lot of the things that I do also kind of focus on staff development. Staff for Community IT, as you know, and as many people that have heard Community IT Voices probably have realized now, staff is a key resource for our company. And since it's a key resource, it requires kind of a high level of focus to nurture staff growth and understanding. And it's good for us as a company, but it's also good for our clients, for the nonprofit organizations that we work with, to have, capable staff, to have happy staff, capable, happy. It's great for service delivery and great for our clients. Anyway, so that's kind of, a big focus of my job, is to focus on staff development, and that kind of equals staff retention. And that's another win, I think, for Community IT. A lot of the staff that works, for Community IT have been with us for, 20, 25 years. And I think the average retention rate, or the average year or tenure, is, I think, 10 or 12 years, the last time I checked.
No, it's, I think Community IT is known for that, of our staff stay with us for quite a long time, especially in this sector, but also for MSPs, I think. So what do you do on a typical day? Do you have a lot of meetings?
Yeah, that is a typical day for me. A lot of internal meetings. I still have a handful of client accounts where I kind of deliver direct services as kind of an IT consulting, IT business manager role, and that is great to have, in addition to kind of my main responsibilities, because it keeps me current. We are an IT company, a technology company, and it keeps me on my toes. It's always new things coming up from clients, and the clients that I usually kind of work with are new clients coming in, where they need kind of a lot of hand holding, or they are some sort of on a technical depth, and we need to kind of take them to the next level. So those are kind of the clients that I really enjoy working with, and the clients that I generally engage with.
That's a great segue to my next question, which is, what are the best things about your job at Community IT?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so. It is very, I think there are two main things for me. One is, of course, we are a service-oriented company and mission-oriented. And that is kind of, and you have heard this over and over with the different people that you interview, just knowing that you are working with nonprofit organizations that are making a difference out there. It's just very rewarding. And that is, for me, kind of, also kind of, something that I enjoy. And, when you listen to the radio, or you watch TV and see one of Community IT's clients on the news advocating, or it's just great to see, to say that's one of our clients, and that's very nice. And I think the second one, and maybe at par with that, is I really like to see to see the staff flourish, on the work that they do. Every little milestone, every certification, every goal that they accomplish, it just fills me. And when we are able to move them closer to gain their career goal, or to reach their career goal within community IT, it's a big win for me.
What's something about your job as the Chief Operations Officer that we probably don't know that you'd like people to know?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say, a lot of what I do is I do a lot of problem solving. And it's just, and maybe, I don't know if people kind of realize that, it's a lot of problem solving. And so I'm presented with kind of, challenges, and we either, take the business process route to solve that problem, or we do data analytics and, and just, go through kind of that process flow or tree to kind of solve that issue. And it's not something that I do alone, but I do a lot of that. And, the members of the MSP leadership team are kind of, a big part of solving those things.
Do you remember when you applied to community IT, and what was it about community IT that inspired you to apply? What was your first job here?
Yeah, I think it's a nice story, actually. I worked for a long time, for about 11 or 12 years, for a big company, totally outside the IT or technology. I was an executive chef for Whole Foods, and I started since I came to this country. But then after that, I was born out and moved to a nonprofit organization that it happened to be a client of community IT. And I was there for 2 or 3 years, and I kind of grew up to be the accidental techie, to become some sort of, kind of have an IT role with that organization. And so we had an engineer assigned at that time, Nate, and he used to come to the office all the time, and most of the issues were already resolved by me because, I really had a soft spot for technology. And that's, I went in my country, I kind of went to school for that too. So he used to come to the organization and say, well, what do you have for me? And most of the things were already solved. And the things that weren't solved, at least I was, I like to do research, and, I had some sort of solution, but I wasn't very comfortable on kind of, putting that in place. And, I used to run that by him, and most, 9 out of 10, it was, yeah, that's good. You should do that. Do it. But anyway, so, I think he find me to be a quick learner, and I just love technology. And I guess in his eyes, I was kind of a good fit for community IT. So kind of he recruited me, he brought me for an interview. And before actually he brought me for an interview, he brought me to spend a week at community IT, receiving kind of training on boot camp. And so I got to meet, a lot of people in the office, engineers. I think I went to a couple of clients with him. And after that, he called me for an interview. And that's how the story began.
That is such a great story. And I think that reflects some of the other interviews that I've had where people made a career change to come to community IT, but found that it was a great fit. So it's a little hard to design a career path that brings you to work in nonprofit technology or at an MSP like community IT. But if you had been planning in high school or college to go into this kind of a career, what kind of advice would you give students, or maybe people who are starting off in their career, of how to get into this kind of a job that can be so fulfilling?
Yeah, I would say, find, if technology is your passion, don't give up. Start slowly, find a mentor, find somebody that is probably kind of, working in that area. It's being, and it's working in IT, and just bounce ideas. I would say, sometimes you have a passion for something, but it doesn't mean that that's kind of, I have a passion for singing and I'm not a singer, or, and so anyway, so I think, yeah, find a mentor, don't give up, pursue your dreams, and, and be also mindful of kind of your strengths, and make a plan, have a list of your strengths and kind of your weakness. And, I would say, go and look at your strengths and just exploit your strengths. Don't worry about your weakness. If technology is your strength, then go for it.
That sounds good. I think a lot of people have some stereotypes of people who work in technology, and some of them are fair and some of them are unfair. Is there something like a personality type, or something that makes people tend to be good at a job like community IT that maybe is overlooked?
I would say, I think when you think about technology, you think about, sitting in front of a server trying to solve technical issues, and you kind of overlook maybe kind of the face-to-face, so the interaction with the user. And I think it's great that you can have all the certifications and the skills to solve a technical issue. But if you don't have that customer service to kind of go on top of that, that's gonna kind of, maybe get in your way of, advancing, especially for community IT. Again, you probably heard this already, but, we are not a technical company, we're a customer service company. And that kind of, it's hammer and hammer and hammer. And we do that with especially new hires, because to us, that's very, very important. The way, that's one thing, solving technical issues and customer service. And then the other one is also, when you are in technology, there's a lot of jargon and acronyms and things like that, and you tend to communicate in that way. And so you have to also have kind of the mentality of communicating complex technical issues into simple terms and simple words, so that the user can also kind of understand. And that goes with the customer service piece maybe, but sometimes you just don't think about that. So I would say those are kind of the two main things.
No, I think that's a great point about, I think sometimes the jargon and the technical language is what frightens people to either to get their problem solved. They think, oh, I'm not going to understand what the person is telling me, or to go into a career like this as well. They might think, well, I can't really, like, I'm not into all of the acronyms, and I don't want to live and breathe technology all the time. But I think having those people skills is, so if you have people skills and you have an interest in technology and in helping people, I think you can learn the rest. It sounds like mentoring is just so important to you. And of course, it's very important at community IT. Do you have any advice for people who don't work at community IT, who maybe are not feeling as supported in their technology job? Of where do you go to find mentors, or how do you find out what you need to do to advance your career?
Yeah, I think, nowadays you have kind of access to different groups or member organizations that can, kind of help you get that connection. If you don't have a connection, with a colleague and kind of in your group of friends, for example, you can, N10 comes to mind as kind of a, as a membership organization where you can find, good webinars and just community groups and focus groups, and you can join them and just bounce ideas.
My next question is, how does someone advance with the technology certifications? Are there certain certifications that are essential to get an entry-level job, or I know community IT supports our staff in getting further certifications in the technology that they need to provide support to customers. So how does that work?
Yeah, so I think, A+ continues to be relevant. It kind of gives you the foundation. So, if you're studying your career in IT, I would say look at the CompTIA certifications and trainings. Don't overlook Microsoft certifications either, that the workstations or the operating systems like Windows 10 certifications. That's important in a class. And then the other one that I would say it's becoming more relevant. It's getting certifications on cloud technology solutions like Microsoft 365, and you can get an entry level of fundamental certifications on Microsoft 365, and that will kind of boost kind of your career when you're looking for an IT job, for sure. And it used to be that Microsoft 365, we were hammering that more and more, but now I've seen Google certifications and more clients joining the Google environment as well. So that's another, that would be another nice to have as well. If you are starting and you are looking for more of a, not so much a technical path, but more on the IT consulting or advisory role, the ITIL, the Information Technology Infrastructure Library foundational certification, it's great to have.
I was going to ask about, I know for our clients, you've told me that we're working with more clients that are in the Google environment, and also as an MSP, we're able to support Macs and all Mac environments, which is a little bit more of a niche, but it's something that we're seeing in a lot of clients. So are there equivalent certifications you can get in the Mac world, or how does that work?
Yeah, there is an Apple certification entry level, and the name skips my mind, but there is a certification there. But what I have seen, and maybe a little bit it's the same for Microsoft, but for Apple's, I think the certification is nice to have, but the hands-on experience is what will kind of give you. It's another world. A Mac, supporting a Mac, it's a totally different world. And so, yeah, the certification is nice to give you kind of that theory, but you definitely need to, that hands-on experience to gain experience. Yeah.
And it seems like in many of our clients, we're seeing a lot of hybrid situations where some people use their Mac and will never give it up. And so we have to be able to provide support for a mix of those technologies. So having a lot of hands-on support with these different systems and platforms helps you be more effective.
Yep. Yeah, for sure.
Sure. I want to ask you a slightly different question about, I think you also have worked in the past, at least, on some implementation projects and projects in general, which is a little bit different from the ongoing support that we provide, which is, there's a level of support that you work strategically with the clients to make sure that everything is working the way it's supposed to be. But sometimes we have some clients who have a project, like they're moving to a different platform or they're moving to the cloud. Can you talk a little bit about how we support those clients that have more of a discrete, like there's the beginning, middle, and an end of an implementation project?
And you're talking about more cloud specific or in general? Cloud specific?
Exactly. Yeah. Cloud specific, I think, is the project that we see a lot of.
Yeah. So we're seeing, kind of a lot of a movement on clients, and I think it's more and more clients are already in the cloud, but we still see, especially for new clients, still have kind of the servers in-house and trying to kind of move entirely to the cloud. And what we do, I think we always start with kind of doing some sort of discovery, because you hear a lot of kind of buzz about Microsoft 365, and all of the donations kind of make it, very appealing to an organization to try to move to Microsoft 365. But sometimes Google might be a better fit. Going to Dropbox or Box might be a better fit for an organization. And so that discovery and that kind of consulting firsthand is very important to do with an organization before kind of jumping to solutions. So I would say that's kind of the first step. And then, of course, once you pick your solution, it's important to find, kind of the vendor that is going to, don't do it all at once, because there's a lot of change management. It used to be that you needed some change management with server. With cloud, it's like ×2 or ×3. And so you want to kind of break that whole project into different pieces. And so you want to find a vendor that kind of understand, what do we need to do first, and take care of all of that. Make sure your users understand that. Go through the, dotting your I's, crossing your T's, complete that, move to the next bucket and the next bucket until you have kind of completed all the roles and can decommission your domain at the end. For some organizations, and this is about part of the planning too, for some organizations, you're never going to get rid of the server. There's always going to be a server, because for authentication, for whatever reasons, there might be a need for a server. So that's another thing that you need to discuss early on with your consultant is, does it make sense for us to go serverless in totality or not? And if we need to have a server, does it make sense for us to have a physical server here? And that has some other implications, right? Like you might need a better firewall than the ones that you might need if you're totally in the cloud. Anyway, so those conversations are, some conversations that you need to make sure you have before you kind of move to the strategic plan and the roadmap. And that is kind of, I think, key to success. And I hope I answer your question, Carolyn.
Yes. Yes, that was a great answer. I'm so glad that I have you here, because I have a lot of questions about how we help our clients. And I have another question about maybe the way things have changed over the past 2 years. And if you're seeing, with the clients and with the strategic IT planning, do we have clients that are really changing how they approach IT because of the pandemic and because of working remotely? And can you talk a little bit about those trends that you're seeing and how IT is changing how we support nonprofit clients remotely?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, thinking back to March of 2020, when all of these things happened, it was I'm not going to say it was 100% great. It was challenging, but for most of our clients, the transition to working from home was seamlessly. And that kind of speaks to the fact that those conversations are conversations that we had with them early on, kind of making sure, they had a sound remote access, using a remote access server, or using the VPN, or even moving them to the cloud. So I think, for most of our clients, that change, was a little bit difficult to do, but the technology was in place. And I think the transformation that I have seen after that is that, a client, and regardless of the size, have actually matured a lot in the last 2 years. And I think strategic IT planning was probably on the second level. You wanted to have all your infrastructure up to date, and we needed projects to, for the workstations and all those things. But I think now strategic IT planning is kind of, taking kind of the first level. And I think clients realize that having a good plan in place, it's important. And I have seen, and I'm happy to see that, like I said, organizations of different sizes are kind of thinking of, about IT in a strategic way. And then the second thing that I would say that it's also been part of their maturity or their growth is the focus in security. We have a baseline cybersecurity roadmap that we need to, that we're always included in our strategic IT planning. And I think 2 years ago, that was probably seen as an additional cost, to have a security awareness training, to implement multi-factor authentication, to make sure that the organizations were able to join their network remotely without putting some security controls in place. That was, they were looking at that as kind of a cost, tasks. But now I think, security for them, it's when we talk about that as part of our strategic IT planning, they get it, they understand it, and and we're able to add those line items to our 3-year budget, and that's great to see.
I think this experience has brought home for me, at least, that community IT is a little different from a traditional MSP in that we've always focused on the strategic planning, because for nonprofits, you have to have a strategic plan and a roadmap to even just be able to make the investments that you're going to need to make next year or the year after. So we always do a lot of counseling with our clients around that aspect. And yes, I agree with you that it wasn't a great way to test this, but the fact that we already had a lot of that strategic thinking in place made us able to better support clients through this huge transition, for sure. So I want to shift a little bit gears and just ask you a little bit more about your personal journey, because earlier you told me when you came to this country. So I wanted to ask, where are you from, and what made you come to the DC area?
Yeah, so I'm from South America. I'm from Peru. What made you come to this country? Well, my mom came first, and she was here for whatever 5-6 years, and then she kind of brought us to the U.S. And it was kind of a difficult transition. I was already 17, almost 18 when I came to this country, and my sisters were still early on their age of teenagehood. And it was hard learning, making sure that you continue the school where you also kind of work and learn the language. It was all packed, but I think at the end it was kind of worth it, right? I think for me it was a blessing to join community IT. And I mentioned that, when I was in Peru, I kind of, was pursuing a systems engineer degree. And so when I came here, the first job that I found was in the food industry. And, and I realized that I also had a passion for cooking. And so I, worked for Whole Foods for, like I say, 11, 12 years and learn a lot and, kind of work my way up the ladder. And that kind of gave me, I think, a lot of experiences, and I learned a lot of kind of the skills to use, with community IT. And they didn't give me any of that technology skills, but I learned a lot of the leadership, in management, and the business processes and the data analysis and all of those things, that, so I think for me, all of those experiences and, I think life was just preparing me to have a role at community IT and to give whatever I learned to community IT, because community IT, I honestly, and in my heart feel like we are making a difference. And so, just, life is molding all the people that need to be at community IT so that we can help community IT be a better company, because we're helping our clients be better nonprofit organizations. And, it's just a domino effect.
That is a lovely way to say it. When people ask you what community IT does, what do you say?
I say that community IT does or helps nonprofit organizations. I just talk about kind of our missions. We help nonprofit organizations reach their goals, reach their potential through technology. And that's generally my question. And sometimes, people ask you more, and then, you can, talk about how great of a company we are, all the success stories, starting from our CEO, where, we all started as an admin all the way to, kind of the C-level, and all the success stories that we are kind of, needing right now with the staff, that are starting now, the new community IT generation that I call it. So that's usually what I see.
Thank you so much for this interview today and for taking the time to talk to me. I really enjoyed learning about you and your job. Thank you.
Thank you for having me, Carolyn.